We're in Bordesley Green in Birmingham. There is a gathering of members of the Muslim community who've come out here, they say, to protect property because there might be a far-right protest.
This was a live report in August last year.
Well, because...
Hey, yo, free Palestine! Free Palestine!
But I think, apologies for the language you're hearing, but a sense of I think you can hear there. That happened right here during the height of the riots last summer. People from the Muslim community in this part of Birmingham had heard that far-right protesters were on their way, so they'd come out onto the streets to defend them. As we tried to drive away, we were chased by a man with a knife who tried to slash the tyre of one of our vans.
He's gonna us.
A year on, we've come back to talk to people about that day and how they're feeling now. Can I just have a show of hands who was there or in the area that day?
My understanding of that day was that there was going to be people coming from the far right, and the local community had lost faith in the local elected members as well as the local policing units. And they thought that the only way to protect themselves, though it was misinformation and it wasn't true, the only way to protect themselves and the community was by coming out in force against the people that were going to come here to cause issues.
And did people feel they had to be armed?
That is something that I disagree with, but I believe that is the case, unfortunately.
In every community we have our sort of, should we call them idiots, and you can't control their behaviour. There was a concern that the far-right group that was coming may well be armed. Again, it was misinformation, so I think it was just trying to counteract what they thought was coming.
Bordesley Green is a majority Muslim area, but these men invited Jerry, who lives here too, to give us a white man's take on what happened.
They were actually stopping cars, and then you can, on the social media output, there's white people in that car.
And chasing them, yeah.
They were looking for what they thought were the enemy, white people, and trying to find white people, which is why I stayed in my house, because the intelligence I had was, don't get involved, don't walk around, and, you know, it will pass.
So that day you were afraid to go out on your own street because you're white?
I know my local community, and I know that it is the young guys, most of them are, quite a few are on drugs, related to drug gangs, etc. And the reality is, in our area, can we totally rely on the police? No, they're poorly resourced.
It was very tense and there was fear, I accept that, but we were very clearly there as journalists. We had a broadcast vehicle. I was actually reporting live at the time that it happened. So it was very clear the reason why we were there. So why were we targeted?
It was quite upsetting because obviously you'd seen me about half an hour prior, and then you've seen this, and I was like, wow, you know. And at the same time, I've probably got a video somewhere where a white lady stood on a and said, "I support you guys," and she felt very safe. It was just like everybody here, you get a bunch or a handful of mindless individuals who now make the rest of us look really bad. And I think it was crazy that somebody's out there chasing you down the road, and it's just, and again, we have them in our community, and you guys have them in your community.
But was it because we are
white
journalists?
No.
It's because we were white?
No, it's not because you're white, it's because they're actually bored. It's boredom. And they wanted a bit of excitement.
If we had all been Asian, would that have happened?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's just, like I said, it's the heat of the moment. It wasn't the fact that you were white, it wasn't the fact, it was just the heat of the moment.
Do you think that contributed to maybe a loss of sympathy for communities that actually had a lot of sympathy at the time?
We feel that we have a two-tier journalist system where when the colour is like mine, we get different justice, and when the colour is a bit paler, it's different.
It's interesting that you talk about the mainstream media not giving Muslims a fair hearing, and yet the accusation from the right in this country is that the mainstream media is woke.
But this conversation is not about immigration, it's about Islam, because the reference is the Muslims. Yeah. So it is not immigration, pardon me, that we're talking about, it's religion,
it's
and
the
perception that the Islamic religion is oppressive, it's wrong, it's there to control and destroy.
Save our kids!
I'm keen to move the conversation on to ask how the current wave of anti-immigration protests that began in Epping have left this community in Birmingham feeling.
I would like to go and join them and stand out.
The anti-immigration
Yeah,
protesters?
and the anti-immigration.
Why?
Because we have this problem within our own communities and people don't talk about it. We feel exactly the same and we understand how the English feel with the immigration.
You're saying you almost want to go and join these protesters.
Yeah,
However,
You feel that you're
were
going
you
there.
to walk up to the protesters, what do you think the reaction would be?
Well, this is it. They think I'm an immigrant, born here, 58, and they look at me as a foreigner or a migrant when I walk.
What is your number one concern at the moment?
Okay, well, me personally, where I live is crime.
Crime?
Immigration.
Immigration, your number one concern?
Yeah.
Where I live, it's crime.
My number one would also be immigration.
So for me, there are a number of issues. First and foremost, how come if we're a first world country, we've got some of the highest homeless rates?
I think for me, it's immigration.
Which would maybe surprise a lot of people.
If I can just, when I said crime, a lot of the crime locally now is caused by a certain diaspora of immigrants that have come into this area.
So I believe that the average white guy isn't racist, they're just fed up.
Yeah.
The question is for us now, as people who are born and bred in this country, what is our identity? Who are we? Right? So we, as a white person born in this country, you're automatically accepted. Are we going to be accepted? How many generations will it take for us to be accepted?
It's clear tension remains here around race, religion and identity, but there's also a real sense of frustration about immigration and its impact on life in Britain. Becky Johnson, Sky News, Birmingham.